Hey everyone, welcome back to What We Crave. I can't wait to tap into this next one with Shawn Wells. We're going to take a deep dive into the soul and heart of the matter. Shawn's going to tell his personal story, but it's not what most people would expect. Now, I've seen Shawn speak at conferences across the country over the past few years, and he's known as the world's greatest formulator. He has an amazing background in nutrition, supplements, biohacking, fasting, keto, how to achieve optimal health. And at the end of this interview, he gives an amazing list of supplements on how to support our neurotransmitters, our serotonin, our dopamine, so that we're less likely to grab for the food. So check it out. The world's greatest formulator, Shawn Wells, is up next on What We Crave.
That's awesome. And I'm so happy to be on this show with you. Yeah, I grew up probably an uncool kid, I will say, like the video game nerd that watched cartoons and was bullied at school and ate junk food and was overweight and really depressed, honestly. Like I did well in school, but I wasn't as cool as other kids. I wasn't the good-looking kid or the superstar athlete, and I used a lot of humor. I was definitely a funny kid, but I think that was my coping mechanism because of just not being cool and being depressed and being bullied and all those things. So I got into business school. Everyone told me you need to go to business school, do the real world, and that's the smartest thing to do. So I didn't know what I was supposed to do, so I did that. But I started working out and using supplements and, reading about nutrition and going into GNCs and reading all the labels and getting very excited about all this nutrition supplement and working out stuff, reading all the magazines. And there was a book, Optimum Sports Nutrition by Dr. Michael Colgan, that really excited me. And I told this doctor that I was seeing for my physical in between my sophomore and junior year at business school about this passion, and he saw the spark in my eye and he drew this lifeline between 20 and 80 and said, why not be happy between here and here? And it was the ultimate, like, okay, permission, go chase your dreams. Because this guy was a medical doctor. Like it wasn't like just some hippie on the side of the road, like, bro, chase your dreams, man.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a successful person that saw my passion. And then I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I can do this not as a hobby, but as my career. I did finish up business school, and I decided to go back to school. And so I went to UNC Greensboro to get all my prereqs, and I told the guidance counselor there about my dream of Chapel Hill and all the classes I needed to take, like tons of classes, biochemistries, anatomies, physiologies, all this stuff. And he looked at me and told me, you're a business student, you're going to fail and fail miserably, and you're not even that fit. And I walked out of there pretty dejected, and I considered killing myself that night because it was my dream, and it felt like he just took it away from me. And, just like one guy gave me my dream, like another guy pretty much could have taken it away, including my life. So there's definitely power in words.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I ended up not killing myself that night. I ended up making a decision to just do it anyway. I put everything on my credit card and I took my classes, 26 credit hours a semester. I ended up getting straight A's, getting into Chapel Hill, and everything started happening like I wanted to. I was manifesting it all. But then halfway through my experience at Chapel Hill, I ended up getting mono, Epstein-Barr virus, and Hashimoto's, and chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. And the pain and inflammation was so bad, I again considered suicide because I literally couldn't get out of bed for months. Like I was in such pain and inflammation that I didn't think I'd ever be a productive person again or even be able to go to school. I was literally just stuck in bed. And I ended up stumbling into the ketogenic diet. And I read a few books. One was The Ketogenic Diet for the Practitioner by Lyle McDonald, which was more of a clinical perspective. And then another one was The Body Opus by not a doctor. He was a bodybuilder, Dan Duchesne. And so I was reading both of these two perspectives, one clinical and one on how to get ripped and all this stuff. And I thought it was fascinating, the ketogenic diet. So this is about 20 years ago. And so I started doing keto, and I relieved much of my pain and inflammation. I got back to school. I got back to life, felt 100 times better. I wouldn't say I stuck to it purely because it was hard back then with there wasn't the keto communities and the recipes and all the cookies and all these things like there is now. About 8 years ago, when I got a pituitary adenoma, which is a brain tumor, I decided I'm going to go very strict at this point. So that's when I started doing paleo and intermittent fasting and biohacking and all the supplements for the immune system and for brain health. And because the pituitary is so important for neurotransmitters, hormones, so many things, but also I'm at higher risk now for just brain cancer. I've been doing it, like I said, for about 20 years, but very strictly for 8 years. I started working in hospitals as a chief clinical dietitian, but on the side, I was working on all these message boards as a company rep, like answering questions. And then I started doing marketing write-ups. And then I started going to the shows like the Arnolds and the Olympias and all those things. And then I started doing some basic formulations. I wasn't getting any money for them. I was just getting some supplements here and there. And then I even came out with some ingredients that got super popular that I got no money for. I was the one that brought raspberry ketones to market, a different type of ketone, but that ingredient made millions and millions and millions of dollars. And that was a good lesson for me that I probably could have retired off that one ingredient. But that's when I started to learn how to patent ingredients and get into the intellectual property side of things. And I've since patented about 10 ingredients. I've probably done about 500 supplements that are on the market. Yeah, it's been a good career.
Tell me more when you went from formulation to getting up on stage.
Yeah, it was probably about 8 years ago when I started getting serious with keto that I started speaking a little bit. Not extremely confidently, but I knew I had a message. It was probably 6.5 years ago I started on the radio. But I think about 2 years ago, I started really getting a lot of momentum and speaking like all over the world, like in Brazil and China, and I'm going to like Iceland and Italy and London, and speaking in Colorado, here in Dallas, California,
Just all over the
Tahiti.
world. No big deal.
Yeah, just everywhere. And then I've also done a couple documentaries with a mutual friend of ours. Yeah, podcasts, TV shows.
So this is where things kind of take that turn, which is very cool. You know, you're speaking on stage about keto and fasting, intermittent fasting, supplements, right? The majority of like how to get optimal health, your story of your health, right? But I know that recently you just got up on stage and started talking about your childhood history, and you became super transparent. And it seems like things just went to a whole new level, just again, Why at this point, did you decide to share something so special, and what was that?
Yeah, it's been hard for me because of, bullying and just some chaos in my childhood. It was very difficult. I've kind of like blocked it out to some degree, and it's been hard. Like I said, I was probably 100 pounds overweight. And then I hit another point in my life where I was anorexic because I was tired of being the fat kid, and I wasn't eating at all, and I was working out constantly, and I got down to about 165 pounds. And I looked like skin and bones. I'm 6'3". So for me, that was extremely skinny. And I've been suicidal at several points, like we talked about, and that's been hard to open up about. It's hard in general to even open up about my health issues, because I thought I'm a registered dietitian, I'm a biochemist, I'm a certified sports nutritionist, and I'm supposed to be healthy and fit. and I'm supposed to be the perfect uh, view of health. Like when people look at me, when people talk to me, I'm not supposed to get sick. I'm not supposed to have immune issues. I'm not supposed to have suicidal thoughts. I'm not supposed to have history of severe depression and anorexia and all the things that I've been through, but I do. And it took me a while to appreciate that. When I started working with companies on branding and really getting really deep with some CEOs, that helped me because a lot of them would be opening up about their past and suicidal thoughts and molestation. Like a lot of men have been molested and not talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just find in general that these driven entrepreneurs and CEOs, sometimes there's something behind that drive. And probably 90% of the time, these guys that I've talked to and worked with, they open up with some really heavy, heavy stuff. And it helped me realize that most successful people have this in common, like that they're hiding, they're broken, and our broken is our beautiful. Like it's what helps us connect with people, it's what helps us empathize with people. When I started privately sharing with them some things that I've been through, then it helped them open up even more. Then they started discovering their why. Then they fell in love with their company all over again in a very different way. It's awesome. And then that helped me, like, oh, like I can tell my truth. I can be authentic and I can connect over that and really on a deep level and really change people, because everyone out there is broken too. You look at someone who's skinny, like maybe they've been bullied for other reasons. Maybe they're skinny because, they have an eating disorder. Like, some people, I know people in the fitness industry that, look like amazing bodies, but they have body dysmorphia and they're, eating disorders. And everyone's had their cross to bear. Everyone's been through some type of hell.
Yeah.
And I'm here now to just tell my truth.
Well, and I think that's the beautiful thing is, isn't it funny how what you were kind of keeping in was the one thing that everyone wants to hear, right? With the way social media is now, like we know when there's filters on stuff. We know when, you've got just altered images and certain angles and looking perfect. Like we don't want to see perfection. We want to see real, raw truth and the soul of a human.
I think that's where we connect to. Like you're a deep person.
Give me the soul, So
I really found that like people, like I was reluctant, one, to tell my own story because it was deeply personal, and I'm going to talk about being the fat kid, talking about being suicidal, talking about it not being a straight path of I know what I'm going to do and I just chased it down and I'm perfect. And like you're kind of used to presenting it. It really struck a chord with everyone that I talked to. And I had other people come up to me and tell me they've been suicidal, they've had body dysmorphia, they've had eating disorders. My dreams that I decided to chase down were to be the best formulator in the world. And now I'm called the world's greatest formulator. And, my dream was to be a respected registered dietitian and a sports nutritionist and, get a background in biochemistry and do formulations and maybe, patent ingredients. And I've done all these things. So it's incredible. And I wouldn't be here unless I had all my broken. I wouldn't be here without all my gifts, but I wouldn't be here without all my broken either.
Yeah, it's
So I'm thankful for that. I'm blessed for that. If like I don't look at any of this stuff now as like tragic and I wish I was just, beautiful day one and the incredible athlete day one and had money and all the things, but I would probably be an asshole if I was all those things. Yeah, so I just started weaving that in of like why I do keto and why I do paleo, why I do fasting, why I take these supplements every day for my brain health, and why I care about circadian rhythm and all these different things, mitochondrial health. Like I still get into the science, but I think when I give my why, and I tell my story, it just gives it so much more context. And I think people trust you more, they connect with you more, they empathize with you more. And I really empathize with people that come up to me now, that write me, that, come up to me after the shows I do or whatever. It's so powerful. I get so many emails and direct messages and all those things now about, my mom has cancer, my brother has an eating disorder. I've lost 100 pounds, but I still have 100 more to go. Like, I get this stuff like every day, and I feel like it's a massive blessing that I do. Like, it just strengthens my resolve to just keep going, to keep learning, to keep speaking, to keep telling my truth, to be authentic. Some people don't know their own authenticity. Like, they think this is who I am, but they haven't done enough self work to really dig into that. It's just they're digging into the self that they project instead of the self that they have down deep. And it can be ugly and it can be difficult and it can take some time to do all that self work, and it certainly takes help, but it's a worthwhile journey.
And speaking of journey, is that the book, The Hero's Journey? Is that where you started? Also, The Obstacle is the Way. That was a book that you had talked about as well.
That's Stoicism. I don't know if people know, like, it's Ryan Holiday is the author of that, but the idea of Stoicism is exactly what the title says. Like, really, like, the obstacle is the way. You don't want to avoid obstacles. You don't want to go around obstacles. You don't want to wish for a life that had no obstacles. I think that there's like some biblical verse or sentiment about, like, don't wish for a life without adversity, like, wish for greater strength. The adaptation comes from adversity. And otherwise, again, if you were just beautiful and rich and smart and had all the things, you wouldn't grow. And it's through the adversity that you grow. So I'm now thankful for all the obstacles because it's made me stronger. It's made me empathize. It's made me connect with all these people around me that are going through difficult things as well. And to see that they're going through difficult things. Like, now I see people.
Right.
I don't just, hear them and say hi to them and, keep going about my life. Now I see the pain in other people. I hear the words and I know what those words are code words for, like, you can kind of read through that and say, okay. And instead of, like, when someone engages you in, like, something negative and they're, I don't know, just berating you for some reason, you can say, hey man, what's going on with you? Instead of just, saying something back and being hateful back and forth. Like, you can actually see that they're projecting hurt, and we know hurt people hurt people.
Rewinding, I kind of, with the bullying and all the stuff you went through, how did you start that healing process?
I really identify with someone like Robin Williams. Like, I've always considered myself sharp and funny and caring and passionate. But I also, like, with my high highs, I can have low lows. And it's just a reality of someone who's emotional and loving and passionate. And I think I've always been doing some self-work. I think I was good at, like, making people laugh and being outgoing enough, but I was also, like, a deep person that would, think through something someone said for hours, so.
Which is probably why, these people that are telling you these things and squashing your dreams, that's probably why it hit you so hard, because you take things with such heart and think about it so long.
That's exactly it.
When you talked about this story, your depression, the suicidal thoughts, things like that, when you talked about it on stage, and you said people really resonated with it, they came up to you. Do you think that was healing for you?
Like, so incredibly cathartic. I mean, because it was so deeply personal, it was really, really hard for me. Like, I was like, I can't show that picture. I can't say this. I can't open up about this. I'm going to hold this back.
Oh, no, I'm like, no, don't hold it.
and then I'd, like, go back and I'm like, I just get more and more comfortable with it after I was reading through. I'm like, all right, I need to talk about this too. I actually cried a couple times while I was talking.
I love that. I think it's amazing. A strong, amazing man shows emotion. Like, that is just the heart of a human right there. And it's a beautiful thing. Anyways, keep going.
People were cheering, like they were just going through it. Like, again, like I felt like the Rocky or the Rudy or the Karate Kid or something, that I've been through this and it built me up. But you know what? It's not over either. Like the difficult times continue. It's just new challenges, different challenges. You don't, like, the hero's journey isn't like, it was tough now, or it was tough back then and now it's great and it's over. I'm the hero.
Right.
It's a continual battle. Like, the battle never ends. A friend of mine is a bodybuilder, and I was working out with him the day prior, and I had no idea that, like, he had been through so much stuff. He had severe body dysmorphia, and he looked amazing. He had an eating disorder as well, and he ended up sharing on his Instagram that he would throw up often, bulimia. And his daughter, when she was 4, said, "Daddy, if you need to throw up, you can."
Mm.
And he said it just leveled him. And that's when he decided to make a change. The next day, he shared another post where he was in the pool with his kids. And he said that was the first time he felt okay taking a picture in the pool with his children with his shirt off. And this is a guy like that looks like magazine ready bodybuilder. So you don't know what people are going through. And, I'm not going to take sole credit for that. But he said that that was one of the things that inspired him to feel free about sharing his story. And now he's sharing his story often. And I think it's absolutely amazing. And it's probably strengthened his family life and his friendships and, just being open, honest, and authentic. And that is so beautiful that it's helped me and it's helping others.
So what do you think the most important lesson from that is?
This is about being in integrity and being aligned with who you are in your soul. And every day that you're out of alignment, it's just creating negative energy in you. It feels like something unachieved and you're slipping down a slippery slope. That, like, you'll get so far out of alignment with who you are, you don't even know what life you're living anymore. It's someone else's life.
I mean, if that isn't a baseline for emotional eating, I don't know what is, right? With the bullying, with how you said, I was the fat kid, was the weight gain after all the bullying?
I would say that it was a result of the bullying, of not fitting in, of not being the cool kid. And yeah, I remember being on the outside looking in with girls, with sports, with just being popular, and a downward spiral, if you will, like with, the just staying inside and not going out with people and playing video games and trying to escape your reality and, eating the junk food. And then you get fatter. And then, of course, you get less popular and you start to hurt more. And I think that's when you start going inward pretty deep and you can be pretty tough on yourself. In college, it went from being tough to pretty extreme about being the fat kid on the outside looking in, because in college, like, people are going to clubs and bars and dating and fun and frat parties and all the things. And again, I was on the outside looking in, and that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to, try working out and try eating right and taking all these supplements. And then I went to an extreme, actually. Like, it started out pretty good and healthy, and then I went to a pretty far extreme, I think, because I was in such a dark hole that I went, the opposite way and became super, super skinny and wasn't eating. And, it was unhealthy as well. But, and then it's hard when people are reinforcing it too. They're like, "Oh, you look great. What are you doing? Like, this is amazing. Oh, you look so thin. Like, that's incredible." And so, like, you're like, yeah, okay, well, I'll just keep not eating. I'll keep working out like 10 hours a day, and
Right.
I'll keep doing it.
What do you think you're really craving underneath all that?
This is actually stuff I haven't even talked about. So this is tough. You're getting me to open up about another layer that I haven't even shared yet, or haven't even thought to share. I think at that point, I was without love. I think that was the hardest thing of when you're on the outside looking in and you see people that have all the friends and they seem to have like the girls and the parties, and I felt alone a lot. My own voice wasn't a positive voice, and there wasn't any positive voices around me to lift me up, but I was also tearing myself down and my own worst critic. Yeah. I think I think that's it. Is just feeling stars for love and attention. And I
Mhm.
started getting some attention when I started getting skinny,
Right.
but you know, I didn't love myself still. Even though I was hearing some positive voices around me,
Hmm.
things started to change, which I craved, but I wasn't good to myself still. I think I struggled with it for a long time and probably still struggle with it to some degree. That's why I'm trying to just do the self work. That's why I'm trying to share with you or on stage, because I still haven't felt 100% comfortable sharing everything. There's still pieces I've held back, and some of that might be like my own brain where I've kind of blocked some pieces out.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a survival mechanism where there's tons of memories that I've just intents and purposes just deleted.
That's survival, right? That's how our
Yeah.
brain survives. Hmm.
Where I've really been made fun of or bullied or abused or whatever, and just I've just deleted it. One of the biggest things for me was probably when I started working clinically, that my life stopped being about me.
Mm.
And when I started working with other people on a clinical level and caring about patients and residents when I was in a nursing home, that's when I think I started making some breakthroughs, because I just started like seeing people on a pretty deep level, seeing people on death's door, seeing people preparing for death, seeing people that were lonely, like in nursing homes, seeing people that were facing down cancer and burn victims and whatever. Just I've seen a lot of death, disease, and sadness, and it made me care for people on a very, very deep level. And I think that's when I started getting outside of my head a little bit and seeing that I was really impacting people on a deep level and finding my why. And that,
Mm.
like, when I was connecting with people that were facing down death, and I myself had suicidal thoughts and severe depression in the past, that I could help these people, that I could really connect and console them and say, I understand, and really mean it. And that helped me a lot.
I think that just you just nailed it. Like you said, when you can take take the spotlight off you and not make it about you, and then you go and you see someone on death's door, or a burn victim, or someone that's about to say goodbye to their family because they're going to pass away soon. Like, if that doesn't create gratitude for you for your own life.
Especially in the nursing homes when I was with them for years. Seeing people face down death, seeing people that were alone, seeing people that were going through disease, morbidly obese, like dealing with all this stuff, dealing with this depression and loneliness, and seeing like how it's impacting their souls and how they craved love, and they craved someone to be there, just friendship, someone to listen. And that made me realize I'm not alone in this stuff. Like, there's tons of people that are hurting. But then, we're always looking at these people that like seem to have it all. And, like I said, when I was going through college and high school and these different points in my life, and you're seeing all these popular people and they seem to have all the parties and the love and the money and the looks and
Mhm.
all the things. But then the funny thing is, when I started working with CEOs and entrepreneurs and they were those people, I saw how hurt they were.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, holy shit, everyone's hurting.
Totally.
We're just not seeing it. And you see this with rock stars and movie stars and celebrities and the wealthy. They're
Hmm.
committing suicide. They feel alone. This thing that we think everyone else has that we want. What we need to do is go down deep and connect with who we are and just go on our own journey of aligning with our soul, who we are, and finding our purpose, our why, and just going all into that why. And you will have a life fulfilled. We all need to grant ourselves forgiveness, like grace. Everything has got us to this point, and right now is when you can make your strongest decisions. Right now is when you can go do that inner work. Right now is when you can connect with those people around you that are hurting. And you just need to forgive yourself about the past. Can you do that? Like, can you just like let it go? Can you forgive yourself? Can you go back and do the self-work without blaming yourself or feeling unworthy? And recognize, to me, that's an important part of that. Like, successful people in any version of success are good at reframing. So yes, it happened, but can you reframe it? Can you turn it into a positive? And I really believe like our broken is our beautiful. Like, it's not a negative thing. It's our superpower. Yes. If you tap into it, if you really go into your hurt and all the ways that you're supposedly broken, that's what people love. And that's what makes you different. That's what's made you so unique. Like, that's what's given you the adversity to come all the way here. It's your purpose. It's your why. Anyone who's like started some company that's gone gangbusters and done amazingly, there's usually like this incredible story behind it. Like, where someone was hurting, or they were seeing there's something that's going on in the world and I need to do something about it.
100%. I was just thinking of like how many people that's happened to. You look at Tony Robbins, you look at Oprah. I mean, there's so many podcasts on these stories where without that trauma happening to them, it wouldn't have triggered the drive for them to be who they are, to bring their gift to the world.
Anyone that tells you to be realistic is telling you to not be in line with your dreams, not chase down your dreams. Do you know how like unrealistic Elon Musk is?
Yeah.
Someone who created like electric cars that drive themselves. He's completely unrealistic. The people that do the most amazing things have, one, tapped into their hurt, accepted it, and then two, are just unrealistic with what everyone else thinks they should do. Just do you. Just go deep and find out what makes you so passionate. What are your dreams? What lights you up? And go chase that down. Because I know with me, the reason I'm the world's greatest formulator is no one can keep up with me.
Nothing else could probably even touch you, because you're vibrating such a high frequency of love, passion, joy, and all that. You're in your zone to the point where it's like you don't even probably remember your childhood traumas at that moment, or the bad thing somebody says. You're just in your flow state of like, this is what I should be doing.
Exactly. I think it was Beyonce that, like, when she was prepping for her tour, like, she would go like a day and a half, like, straight without sleeping, without eating, like, just working on like the dance routines and what, because she was just in it,
right,
focused in her flow state. Let's work on this. And you forget to eat. When you're emotionally eating, you're in your surface self. You're in your feelings, but you're not doing deep self-work to make it better, to come to some conclusions, to figure out why you're doing these things, why you're self-destructing. And you also need to go way outside of yourself and just focus on other people and help other people and connect with people. And in that, you can discover yourself too. But when you're stuck on your surface self, you're not doing deep work, whether it's with other people or yourself.
Do you ever feel like, obviously you're super happy with where you're at right now, but like, if something comes up and you get triggered,
be the positive voice. You know, if anyone talked to you like you talk to you, you wouldn't be their friend. So you have to be a positive voice for yourself. You have to like train yourself for daily affirmations, for vision boards and manifestation and gratitude journaling and all the things, so that your voice becomes a positive one. And yeah, it's important to have the 5 people around you that are, you know, your mentors and that are people that you look up to and people that challenge you and all those good things. And that's incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also really important that you're that voice, that you're the positive voice, that you're lifting yourself up, that you're telling yourself the things that you're capable of, the dreams that you can chase, the greatness that you have within you. You need to be that voice. Your closest five can't be just happenstance. It can't be, oh, well, you know, they're my family, or they're my home, or they're my neighbors, or, you know, they're the people at work. You need to say, these are the people that I look up to. These are the people that I want to be like for this reason or that reason. And they can all be different reasons and different pieces of things that you want to accomplish or be like. But you need to be very intentional about the people that you have around you, because that's going to make all the difference in who you are. You need to model people around you. So when you have those people that are like generous, like you want to be, like driven, like you want to be, passionate, like you want to be, you know, great with money, like you want to be, you know, athletic, like you want to be, whatever, like you can put these people around you. And then of course you have to give back to them. You have to be that friend as well. You can't just take.
When I'm listening to those podcasts, I'm not really hungry either, right? Because I'm getting connection, I'm getting, and again, it's not like a human, right? But I'm getting like, I'm feeding my soul, right? I'm feeding myself. So what about, because again, some people listening are like, great, yep, love the affirmations, love the meditation, love the journaling. But like at the end of the day, when it comes down to doing it, like there are days where I'm like, I'm not doing my affirmations today. Like I just don't feel like it, right? Like my body is like not in the mood, right? Or I'm not in the mood to do my meditation because let's say there's a trauma in my family, or, you know, my sister had a miscarriage recently, or the things that just life happens, right? So what do you say to the people that are like, I just don't feel like it and I'm human and I'm not going to do it today? How do we kind of scoop ourselves off the ground? And
I think the solution is what I was talking about before, is that like if you can't go deeply inward that day because it just hurts, or you're not in the right mood, and maybe you feel like you'll do more damage somehow than positive, then that's okay. One, it's okay to grant yourself grace, and it's okay to not be in the mood that day, and that's fine. Probably the best thing I would say is that go find some people to connect with and offer love, offer that listening ear, offer all the things that you crave. Be that person. You need to be that person. If you want those people in your life, you need to manifest that by being that person. When you start putting that energy out there, you'll start getting those people back in your life, because people will recognize that you are giving, that you are kind, that you are a listener, that you are empathetic. And so few people are. Like so many people are just caught up in their own day-to-day life. Their heads down, they're surviving. I've taken this term of like biohacking and hacktivism, which is hacking for the social good, hacking activism. Like, and I made this term called biohacktivist, like where we're heads up. You know, it's not just about the quantified self, and it's not just about how do I get more longevity and, you know, blah, blah, blah. How do I make myself better and all these things? I mean, that's all cool. But when your head's up, when you're optimized, like that's when you can connect with people. That's when you're listening to people. That's when you hear people on a deep level. You see people for what they are, and you're not just caught up in yourself.
If you could give yourself advice 10 years ago, like this you right now, giving yourself advice 10 years ago, what would it be?
I wouldn't change anything. I'm blessed to have gone through the adversity I've gone through, the experiences I have, all the things that I've learned, the friendships that I've made along the way, and the people that have hurt me along the way have also taught me so many lessons and made me a better friend, a better person, made me do that deep self-work. I don't know that, I mean, the one thing maybe I would just say to a younger me is grant yourself grace. Like, just like forgive yourself, like just let things go. But I'm blessed that everything's happened the way it's happened, and I wouldn't want to change any of that. I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, right now I am successful at what I'm doing. I have beautiful people like you in my life. I have purpose. I've come to know who I am on a deep level, and that makes me have peace.
When we're emotionally eating, what would you say we're really craving?
Love and connection, for sure. I mean, that's when you like you said, when you're in your flow state, when you have joy, like time passes and you don't care. And you don't care about eating, you don't care about Facebook or Instagram, you don't care about I need to get sleep, you don't care. Like, you're just, when you're in your flow state, it's winning the lottery. So if you can chase being in the flow state, then it's like winning the lottery every day. If you can, if you can find what really lights you up, what really makes you passionate, then that's a complete blessing, and go like chase that and do that. You can start it out with it being your side hustle. Maybe you start out with it's a hobby, then you start out with a side hustle, and then just make it your life. Transition to that, because you will be successful at that. If you're very passionate about it, it lights you up. Chase your passion.
I love it. I mean, look at how excited I was to talk to you today. I literally couldn't calm down. I was like, I need some CBD or something to relax me, because I was literally just so excited to bring this to everyone. It's just the thing that has to come out of you, and you got to give to the world, right? What's interesting too is that the first time I met you,
Yeah.
I was actually intimidated by you. There's Shawn Wells up on stage. Didn't know anything about you. I just knew you were Shawn Wells, the speaker, right? And when you're on stage, like, you changed your perception of someone because you've accomplished all these things, and like, you see this celebrity almost in your brain, right? You're done with your talk. You were so kind to me. You were like, how can I serve you? And what can I do for you? And that was a major game changer for me. And I just appreciate everything that you've brought to this and everything you've done for me. And I think someone watching this and hearing this it's going to be exactly what they needed to hear.
I appreciate you right back. And I think the fact that you get excited for these episodes says how passionate you are to help people. I think it gets back to what we were talking about before. Like, you attract what you put out there. When you put out love and empathy, then, that's what you get back. And you start finding the people that are out there in the world that are doing positive things, that are passionate, that are loving, that are helpful, that have been through hurt like you. And when you're just negative and hurting other people because you're hurt, I mean, that's what you're bringing in your world, and the world seems so negative.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so important to change the voice in your head, and to change the people that are around you, to change what you're putting in your head and in your body. It's so important to change that routine, to change that program, that software, and reboot it and update it, and to something that's positive and constructive. And you can be happy. You can choose happiness, and you can put the right people around you, and you can change the voice that's in your head, and you can chase your why, and you can find love when you give love. Like, it's all there.
Perfect.
I appreciate you having me on. I think it's a broken operating system that's replaying, that you need to reprogram and work with someone that's a therapist, have positive self-talk, and have positive mentors around you, for one. If you have a lot of negativity and trauma that's undealt with, and you have negative people around you, you're going to be way more prone to not only eating episodes of overeating and disordered eating, but also body dysmorphia and just impulsive decisions that are negatively affecting you. I think, two, it can be certainly neurotransmitter deficiencies. I think that's over relied upon in medicine, with like, let me just give you a pill. But it's possible that you can have a low amount of serotonin, or dopamine, or GABA, or acetylcholine, or various things. It's certainly worth exploring. Then I think there's an addictive nature to a lot of those neurotransmitters, like with Facebook and Instagram, and like momentary pleasure, like a lot of our addictions, be it alcohol, masturbation, lottery, porn, whatever, like all the things that it could be, like where you're seeking out like momentary pleasure to kind of fill the void that's inside of you, that again, you probably need therapy, you need positive self-talk, you need fulfillment, you need to find your why. Food engineering is built on addiction. And we've talked about this, that like you walk in the convenience store and it's an addiction store. And these engineers are paid to make you addicted, to get that serotonin, dopamine, high bliss point foods. You can look up bliss point foods, and this is something they work on, that it has all these textures, and the sweet and the sour and the salty and the gooey and the, like a food used to have one of these things in nature. Now these foods that we're eating at the restaurant and the processed foods, they have all these things. And so your brain is like literally compulsively addicted to these foods in a way that overrides satiety, that makes you crave more, to think that you'll get more joy from this thing, and then ultimately you feel shame from this thing. So it's important to try and address that with some strategies. Like, can you not have those triggers around you that might make you more of an impulsive eater? Can you avoid ultra processed food and have whole foods that are more nutritious for you, that you won't overeat, that you'll feel fulfillment for in the long run and feel happy that you ate them? Can you have water before a meal and you get something called a stretch reflex with your stomach, and you actually feel satiety from that, fullness from that? I think it's important to fill out a food journal or food diary and see not only what you're eating and how much you're eating, but what's going on at the time you're eating. Like, are you with certain friends? Are you at a certain place? Is it a certain time of day? Then you can say, like, for whatever reason, because of this negative person in my life, because of this place that triggers a memory, because maybe I do have some neurotransmitter deficiencies at this time of day that seems to happen. You can start to put together the puzzle. You can be Dr. House in your own life and put together the pieces and say, look, whenever I'm here, I don't eat well. Whenever it's 5 o'clock, I seem to have an issue. Whenever this person calls me or comes around, I have an issue. So now you can at least be aware of them and address that. Another one that you mentioned is insufficient cellular energy. And that is a result of mitochondrial dysfunction. And a lot of us have mitochondrial dysfunction. And so when you get into these insufficient cellular energy states, it's called ICE is the acronym, where you need a certain amount of energy, but you're only making so much energy. And this happens a lot with metabolic dysfunction, mitochondrial dysfunction, where you have like glucose intolerance, insulin insensitivity. And so you're not getting enough glucose into the cell to make enough ATP, which is cellular energy. And so you feel tired and you feel low and you feel emotional and you feel drained and you feel fibromyalgia and inflammation and chronic fatigue. And you feel like I need to make impulsive decisions. And because you're like operating kind of like at the lowest level, you're more at the survive level than the thrive level. And so you're more heads down. And you're not at an empathetic level. You're not at like the optimized level. You're not like crushing it in your day. You're not like listening to people and connected to people. You're not going to the gym and doing the extra things, taking that walk and eating the healthy food. And you're like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to do this right now because I'm tired, because I'm irritable, because I don't feel good about myself. So I'm just going to make this decision. Physiologically, it can be like hypoglycemia, and your cells actually need the energy And so it's saying like, yeah, give us sugar, give us caffeine, give us the dopamine from riding your motorcycle fast, from having sex recklessly, from, gambling, from whatever it is. Like, I need the energy because we're tired. We have insufficient cellular energy. So this is where, like, going into ketosis, having ketones, doing fasting, doing paleo, because now you're eating whole foods again, doing exercise, which is good for serotonin, like in a more long run sense, doing these healthy behaviors like the gratitude journal, the infrared sauna, the cold plunge, and all these kinds of things, the grounding and sunbathing. All these things will help you feel good about yourself, reset your neurotransmitters, make you feel full, make you feel happy, make you feel plugged in. And then you will desire these things less, but also it will give you the sufficient cellular energy because you'll actually have more insulin sensitivity. Or if you're doing keto, fasting, taking ketones, taking MCTs, eating a low carb diet, doing exhaustive exercise, then you're tapping into ketones as an alternate fuel and you're feeling that sufficient cellular energy. So those are some things. And then probably like the last one would be, people have gut issues, leaky gut. The brain is like where the neurotransmitters are and where your thinking is, but really our primal brain is in our gut. And all these neurotransmitters are also in the gut. We used to think the gut was for digestion. Then we found out it was 70 to 80% of our immune system. Then we found out our gut microbiome is there, and that's like predicting so many different things. Then we find out all the neurotransmitters are there, and there's all this communication happening with the brain, and then maybe like that's actually like more of our real brain, and we're more on autopilot than we actually know. So those are some things, like getting the gut like fixed, like by, again, eating healthy, maybe avoiding gluten if that's a trigger, getting rid of the ultra processed food, taking probiotics, eating fermented foods, all some things that I would try. I mean, it just, the crazy thing is I just gave you the science, but it really boils down to take care of yourself and be healthy and happy. I think the most important thing is eating whole foods. And that for me was like a big discovery, is just getting away from the processed foods. Because again, it's not even just the addictive part of them. They also have the glyphosate Roundup. They have the GMOs. They have the antibiotics, the RBGH, the RBST, the hormones in them. They have the artificial flavors, colors, and sweeteners. They have all the different chemicals in them, the preservatives, like all this stuff. And the FDA can say they're all GRAS, generally recognized as safe, but we don't know what the long-term implications of these are. We don't know what the dose level is of these things. Maybe a small amount's okay, but a larger amount isn't. We don't know how they all interact with each other. So that's a lot of complexity, but I know eating whole food is not a problem. And the animals know that. We should know that. That's what we adapted from, evolved from. It's the last 100 years that have gotten really crazy. It took me a little while to get into fasting too, but when I got into keto, that's when I discovered that I can feel very full very easily. And then sometimes you just fall into fasting. You don't even call it fasting just because you're not hungry and you get busy. Like when you're on keto, it just happens pretty easily. Whereas like people that aren't doing keto are like, how do you go like a day without eating? That's insane. Like I would be so hungry. I'd like, eat a horse. Like, but that's how it happens, because your keto BHB, the higher BHB is beta hydroxybutyrate, the key ketone is, the more full you feel. And it's a survival mechanism that when you're starving, BHB is elevated as a fuel for your brain and your muscles so that you can go find food and be alert but also BHB preserves lean body mass because muscle is the most important tissue to protect when you're starving. Not only is it anti-catabolic, lean body mass sparing, but it turns on satiety so you don't feel hungry as much. So all these things are survival mechanisms, but certainly can work to help us control our body weight, feel healthier, feel more alert, all those things. And that's why I think it's most important to start with whole food, detox yourself off of ultra processed food and this addictive nature, this grip that it has on you. Then after you've gotten into whole food, try and drop some of the snacking and use like, intermittent fasting. You don't have to go all the way into like extended fast. Just do like a 16 and 8, where you're 16 hours not eating, 8 hours eating. Start adding in some exercise, and maybe it's just going for a walk after you eat, which just 10 minutes has been shown to like dramatically impact your blood glucose and therefore every aspect of your health. Just 10 minutes after you eat. Very simple. And then, start ramping up your exercise, maybe 3 times a week, just doing some stretching or some yoga or going to the gym or having a catch with your kid or taking the dog for a walk. It's like, but I think it's important to start with like, how do we get back to like basic self-care of like move your body, eat whole food, drink water, get some sleep, get some sunshine. Some of the most important ones are ones that we almost all should be taking, like a good multivitamin that has coenzymated B vitamins, which just means the active forms of B vitamins like methylcobalamin for B12, P5P for B6. Also look that it has organic minerals like calcium or magnesium citrate or malate or orotate or some of these things instead of oxide or carbonate, which are inorganic minerals, which are really poorly absorbed and cheaper. Fish oil, I like something that's high in DHA, which is the omega-3 that really contributes to the phospholipids in your brain for brain health, which is obviously, like we talked about, important. If your brain's functioning well, then you're feeling better. You're not having the mood dips. You're able to curb off these cravings, whatever. Probiotics, like we talked about, gut health, I think is very important. Also looking at prebiotics and eating fermented foods. When having a probiotic, look for stability of the probiotics. So you want to get something that's microencapsulated probiotics or spore form probiotics where it's protected from the heat, from light, from all the things, from stomach acid, all those things. I think the adaptogens are really good, like rhodiola and ashwagandha. Adaptogens are really cool because they've found that if you're high blood pressure, low blood pressure, if you're high libido, low libido, if you're overstimulated, understimulated, if you have, if you're sleeping too much, sleeping too little, like it just seems to put you in the sweet spot of just where you need to be. And ashwagandha is an Indian herb, rhodiola is a Russian herb, and they've both been shown to improve sleep quality, improve mood, improve strength and power, immune system, again, just a whole host of things. So I recommend using those and just kind of rotating through them. So then going to mitochondrial dysfunction, which is really implicated in almost all disease and biological aging versus chronological aging. Taking PQQ and CoQ10 are 2 mitochondrial nutrients that are important for energy. And then from mitochondrial dysfunction comes glycation, which is blood sugar damage, inflammation, and oxidation. So those 3 things can wreak havoc in our body and cause the aging, cause the disease. It's important that we address each one. And I think berberine is a really powerful nutrient. It's very similar to a popular anti-aging drug that's also an oral agent in diabetes called metformin. And berberine seems to be as good, if not better, and is natural. So that's probably the most powerful anti-aging compound that I think exists. Cinnamon is also a good nutrient for blood sugar, and people have probably heard that. One thing I would look at is that real cinnamon is called Ceylon cinnamon, Ceylon. The cinnamon that we typically buy is actually not cinnamon. It's from a different family and is not quite as good on impacting blood sugar. With inflammation, I would look at CBD and curcumin. With curcumin, you have to look at bioavailability. So I would look at things like Mariva and curcumin, which have more bioavailability, meaning that more of the curcumin gets to your body and has efficacy. And with CBD, that's cannabidiol, that's from hemp, marijuana. Like, I'm sure people have heard about that plenty. And they know THC is the psychoactive component, but CBD is the non-psychoactive component, meaning you don't get high from it, meaning it's not a drug, but it seems to have a really potent impact on something called your endocannabinoid system, where in your body, it seems to be impacting a lot of things. And we need to do a lot more research on this cannabinoid system because it seems to affect your gut, your brain, going back to autism, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, like gut issues, mood disorders, like pain issues, inflammation issues. It seems like CBD is impacting people on a pretty large level. And so there's actually hundreds of cannabinoids, and we just don't know enough at this point. So it's an area of hot research that is really interesting, and I think there'll be a lot more to come. But right now, CBD is available, and you can certainly try that. And then oxidation, I would look at the things that are just healthy, that are good antioxidants. You can take them as supplements, like EGCG from green tea, pterostilbene from blueberries, or resveratrol from red wine, the polyphenols in cocoa. But you could also just eat healthy stuff, and you'll get antioxidants. It's not the one diet or another. If you're eating whole food, you're good. Ideally organic versions and not sprayed with, all the stuff. But yeah, those are the supplements that I would recommend. Beyond that, if people have, with these eating disorders, or disordered eating, I should say, then there are some things neurotransmitter wise that you can do with supplements. And we did mention the adaptogens, which is a good place to start. If you have issues with serotonin, 5-HTP, which is a precursor to tryptophan, you can either take tryptophan in larger doses or 5-HTP in smaller doses. Yep. There's an ingredient called Zembrin, which is kind of like a natural serotonin reuptake inhibitor, kind of like a lot of the medications out there. And then with dopamine, you can take L-Dopa in the form of an herb called mucuna. With GABA, you can take the pure amino acid, or there's a compound called pharma-GABA. You can take that at night. It can, help you relax and get sleepy. And then taking choline, for acetylcholine, is really important. We're almost all choline deficient. Unless you're eating a lot of eggs or taking a choline supplement, they say that you're most likely deficient. So with stress, there's a couple other things that would be good. Some other ingredients. Phosphatidylserine has been shown to help with controlling cortisol. Kava is a really good herb to, again, relax you. There's something in there called kavalactones that has been shown to be relaxing. Magnolia bark has been shown to have a relaxing / sedative nature to it, which might be good in the evening. Magnesium is wonderful to take in the evenings, again, to calm down and relax. Theanine is an amino acid that's present in green tea. One of the reasons that green tea is both uplifting and energizing, but calming and focusing, is it has a cool combination. And this is what's great about nature, right? Is like, it's not just caffeine, and it's not just EGCG, this great antioxidant which helps with vasodilation and protecting your cells, which means, increasing blood flow. But also it has this calming amino acid called theanine. And so it's in green tea, you get improved vasodilation, you get the energy from the caffeine, you get the calming effect of the theanine. And that's why it's a unique experience from green tea versus trying to take caffeine. If you're trying to control your appetite, if you want more alertness in the morning, some things to play with as well. MCTs, particularly in the form of C8 MCTs, caprylic acid. And then again, berberine, just lowering blood glucose seems to improve ketone levels. So you don't have to give up everything. You don't have to change everything. I like the idea of like the scientific method is just changing one thing at a time and knowing what the impact of that is. You also don't have to beat yourself up. If you go from 6 Cokes a day to 1 Coke a day, that's awesome. You know, a meal here and there, like I live in the real world. I'm not like militantly eating Brussels sprouts or something. Like I have cake sometimes. So now when I have the carbs or the, you know, quote unquote cheat meals, and I don't even like to think of them like that. I just think of it as planned carbohydrates or just planned fun meals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the idea of calling it a cheat. Enjoy it and move on.
Yeah.
Like you just get right back on your horse, at least like with, you know, your diet and your routine. Like you're back on it the next day. It's like, give yourself the grace and be okay with that. You know, you can't be all or nothing. Can you just start doing one healthy thing for yourself a day? Take one step a day. You don't have to accomplish 100 things all at once. It's just one step at a time. And successful people, like we've talked about, are experimenters. And you need to be open-minded to at least trying these things once or twice. And then you can say, okay, that's not for me. But if there's healthy habits that are out there, I would encourage you to just at least try them and see if it impacts you in a positive way. And certainly don't criticize people that are out there that are trying to do healthy things. You know, whether the science fully supports them or not, at least they're trying to do things that are healthy for them. And that in and of itself is healthy.